Hey all, welcome to Filmsuck, a Patreon podcast in which we ponder the work of art in the age of crap cinema and television. I'm Eileen Jones.
And I'm Dolores McElroy.
And today we are discussing the streaming melodrama phenomena, especially the lurid outpourings that are coming out of Netflix right about this time. If you happen to have seen either of them or not, we'll keep you informed about things like The Perfect Couple and Deceitful Love. But we're also going to add disclaimer just because it's getting a lot of press, and it's an Apple TV Plus offering. Again, a series. They're all series. That's supposed to be more prestigious, you can tell. Alfonso Cuarón's directing, of Roma and Gravity and Children of Men and all that prestigious
Fancy.
And yet you got the same kind of lurid, rich people crimes and sexy time, hot romances. And, the same trashy tendencies are in disclaimer as in all these others. So we will get into that. Before we go on, though, however, we're going to explain the look. Why I'm wearing these ridiculous sunglasses. Well, you explained, Dolores.
Well, we're trying to embody the vibe. I think the best part about these things is the fashion. Mm-hmm. Certainly that kept me watching the Italian title, Deceitful Love. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, so we're sort of like middle-aged women of means who are probably harboring dark secrets. Exactly. So our sunglasses hide our dark secrets, and some of them may come to light. How about you?
No, this is all. I have no clothes like this, so I really had to rely on a tossed on scarf and the sunglasses. That's all I've got. But usually there's also, especially if you're looking at the Deceitful Love, because it's all that Italianate sophistication that they do very, very well. I don't have the exquisite natural fabric button down blouse that they all seem to favor over like a very nicely tailored fitted skirt or a pair of pants. They're very good at this. And I noticed they really go for tertiary colors. This is highly unusual, but it's not American.
Please explain the color wheel. Eileen, explain what a tertiary color is.
Tertiary is like, again, third level. So primary, red, yellow, blue. Secondary is, orange, green, purple. Mm-hmm. Tertiary is when you combine a primary and a secondary. So say you've got red and orange together. So you get this, you can get a kind of burnty look, a kind of burnt sienna look. You can get a tomatoey color, but it's off. It's off, very much off those, true, pure colors, absolutely, of the primary, into kind of, it looks very idiosyncratic in America. It's not an American thing. I remember teaching with someone who had lived for many years in Europe, and he was always combining these colors, and nothing matched. And somehow it was very sophisticated compared to the matchy, more childlike colors of America. And I always felt envious of this guy somehow. And yet at the same time, I feel self-conscious. I don't wear those colors because they're not available. So I went for the
they're not available.
Dolores has the proper blouse. She has the actual button down.
I do. Care of like Nordstrom rack, high quality, that I bought on the Amalfi Coast, obviously. I'm going to get rid of this like trench coat because it's hot.
It's too hot. Yeah. So at any rate, and I forgot, I've also got the red wine, and I can do the whole thing.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, that's great. You could say. I feel like everyone just says like non posso over like,
and there's all this kind of casual like doing of this to the hair.
Yes.
All very put together in a way that, by the way, if I wore this, and I've tried it.
Yeah.
Where I live, dressed down enough. So if I wear this, and periodically I'll go out to someplace reasonably decent and I'll wear something like this, it's just a skirt. People will be like, "Are you going to a wedding?" And there's that kind of alarm. If I put on anything that's a nice fabric or in any way striking, it's just like people are like worried and get like little concern lines with me. So there's that.
It's so true. I mean, like, we'll go on with this, but like A Perfect Couple, the Nicole Kidman melodrama we're going to be reviewing, I too was like depressed by the paltriness of American fashion. She just wore like sweater sets. And I was like, oh, is this the best we can do? A sweater set? Are you Jackie O? Like, come on.
Come on.
Yeah.
And we have no ability to do the casually put together. It always seems effortful. Yeah. The whole thing about the Euro thing, the Italian thing is, it just looks like you breathe. Of course, it wasn't. I mean, it's I mean, at least there's initial work with figuring out how to do this.
Yes.
But it always looks like, I just tossed this up.
Yeah, of course. This is
I would garden in this.
Yeah. So there are some virtues to this trashy series.
Oh, yes, there's a lot of the attendant pleasure. We'll get into them, but we'll get into some of the main traits of these things if you aren't watching them.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's just get into. I don't even know if this is possible, given we're going to talk about 3 separate things. But can we do overall takes? Let's see.
Yeah. I got a take. My take is that all of these, each of the 3 series is about women not being believed or being like under an unfair amount of suspicion until proven otherwise. So that's what they all have in common. The Anglo ones, well, I don't know, because the Cuarón one, disclaimer, is not yet finished. We have one more episode to go with Cate Blanchett. But, our sort of knowledge of genre tells us that since she's the star and since thus far in her series, she's been absolutely maligned, we're about to get
the last line of the last episode that was available. The next one doesn't run for a week. She says something like, "It's time for my voice to be heard."
There you go. There you go.
So like, whoa, we're finally going to get the real story.
Exactly.
No, she didn't do any of this. Well, some of it, but not in this bad way. Not in this nasty way.
Not so bad, yeah. And I mean, granted, I was thinking about her star image. Cate Blanchett is always at the scene of the crime, doing like weird sex things, and she probably did something. She's always corrupting some minor. There was what's the movie with Judi Dench? Oh my God, a Scandal, something Scandal.
Oh yeah, no, I forget.
Oh, God. Come on, Cate Blanchett, Scandal. Notes on a Scandal.
I didn't see. Heard of it. Let's see. Was it good?
It's good. Judi Dench is in it. It's trashy. It's a lot like Disclaimer.
Okay.
Yeah. Judi Dench is like some old, like jealous person ruining her life. And you think it's different in that you think Cate Blanchett is innocent the whole time. And at the end, it comes out that she actually is kind of a pedophile and having an affair with a high school student, and she's his teacher. Oh, not a good look, Kate. So the structure of Disclaimer is like almost reversed. For most of the episodes, we're led to believe right off the bat, almost off the bat, that she knowingly seduced a much younger man. I think he's like in his late teens. They say he's in his 19, gap year, so he's 18. Yeah.
19, I thought. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's married, and so we think poorly of her. And I think we're about to find out there's more to that. So, very consistent with Kate. But yeah, each of the series, and this is consistent with the history of melodrama, like more specifically the woman's film, is about how women's desire. I can't look at you with those sunglasses. You should keep them, but no, it's a fabulous look. Don't let me.
Really? Okay.
Don't let my inability to function ruin.
I feel more in the role. So
you are very. Okay, so. This is consistent with the history of melodrama. It's about women getting punished for their desire, and we're no longer in the 1940s or the 50s. So these stories are like a squinge more liberated, a little bit, but the world still punishes the women, which is also, true to life. And the American, so A Perfect Couple, the Nicole Kidman miniseries, is the most cringe when it comes to having to like completely vindicate her and everyone learns a morality lesson. We don't know what the ending of Disclaimer is yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be a cringe morality lesson. This is American TV, right?
Yeah, it is America, yeah.
Right. And then Deceitful Love, the Italian one, is the most interesting in the way that the woman is vindicated, but there are compromises made at the end of that series that no American show could accommodate. So that's very interesting. So I think I would say that's the through line. In the great history of melodrama, this is about women's desire being hemmed in. In the case of this moment, it's about women not being believed. Like each woman's social world thinking the worst of her, thinking her incompetent, thinking her bad, thinking her a murderer even, until the truth comes out. And the truth,
and often a bad mother, a bad parent is often
always a bad mother.
Almost always. Her sexuality is always a threat to the children. Always, always, always. We already know this from like Douglas Sirk.
And that has not changed. That's still here. Nope.
Yes, threat to the children.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. What I will add is, and I have to say this to my shame, is somewhere along the line, the melodrama loses me. So no one loves melodrama more than me. If you go back 40s, 50s, 60s, but somehow something happens to melodrama. Yeah. So now it's all I can do to watch it. I literally have to usually. Occasionally there's some exceptions, but usually I'm so embarrassed. I'm just contorted cringe. This is why I didn't finish Deceitful Love. I actually had time to watch Deceitful Love. I mean, it sounds like I made a big mistake. It sounds like it gets sad. Yeah. I just couldn't. It was so going over the same scenario. It seemed to me where she's it's a very Circean premise. She's falls in love with she's a wealthy older woman. She falls in love with an apparently completely broke, in debt, insolvent, who knows how, dodgy young man, and gorgeous young man who's always taking his shirt off so you can see how ripped he is. And of course the children are constantly, everyone who around her ex-husband, everyone is trying to prove that this guy is, could be quite dangerous even, but he's a loser at the very least. And so it's just repeatedly bringing forth the new evidence, the new accusations with whatever seeming evidence, her believing it, throwing him out. Then there's some sort of explanation or some sort of coming around again. She rejoins him. They have a hot, nude sex scene. And it's like clockwork. It's like watching a musical. And you have to have a fight scene in an action film. You have to have a sex scene at very regular, metronome-like regular interludes. And it just kept happening. And by the time we had our 10th go-round, it was just like, God, you just feel like, how many bounces can you do? You're like an old rubber ball at this point. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Back again. So I gave up, thinking it's just going to go on. And apparently other things happened. So I only got halfway. Okay. Otherwise, I saw them all. But I feel guilty about this because I love genre. I love them. And no one has more, I don't think, empathy for what genre films offer to the viewer, i.e. me. I think it's terrible the way cinema snobs, art snobs of all kinds want to, lefties, socialists, communists want to deny people who work any pleasure in life. And among the great pleasures, as long as there's been cinema and television, has been, my God, I'm exhausted. I worked all day, or I had a crappy day, or the world is overwhelming. I just want to go home or go to the movies and see on the screen something that just can be both relaxing and transporting. I don't see why that's a bad thing. Right. I've read all the cases of how it's a bad thing. I can never feel it in my heart. So I like that position. I respect the work. To me, it's harder work to take what people dismiss as these formula, reductive, cliched trait, and make something again and again and again. Another variation on this and it can be brilliant. There are brilliant people who work in genre films. So all the respect. That's easier than doing your highly personal film about some intense experience of yours. To me, that it's much harder. Yeah. So I feel embarrassed and sad that, once you get to at least the 80s, I'm just like, why can I not watch this? I just find it personally mortifying. It's just like, I hate this. And perhaps we'll get to an answer by the end of it. Perhaps Dolores already has an answer. And if not, perhaps by the end of this discussion, we will get to the answer of what has changed. I mean, I literally last night just watched, when I'm feeling god-awful, there's nothing that will set me up like a Bette Davis melodrama from the 40s. Yeah. Just watched the Letter again for the 20th time last night. That's a master. It is. And why it makes me feel so much better, I don't know, but it does. I just at the end, and I'm like that. It just it understands this woman. This woman pays a horrible price for desire. Horrible, unusually horrible. No happy endings here.
Yeah.
But something about confronting the abyss of her life, and in the end, kind of wanting to face what's out there. It seems wanting to go out into the mysteries of the moonlight. And in a sort of acknowledgement of, I don't even understand my own life. I don't even understand, I was trained to live this absolutely artificial life of the upright, wealthy, ultra respectable woman, who's the perfect wife, who's believed to be the perfect wife. And in the end, she's having this clandestine affair, and she murders the man who falls in love with a mixed race woman. It's in Malaysia. Falls in love with essentially a Malaysian woman instead of her, and she kills him because of it. But everyone buys her story for the most of the film because they all believe in her. They all believe in the proper British womanhood, and it's just devastating. So I love it so much, but I watched it to heal myself. I'm trying to watch to see full up. So what that is, I don't even know. So I'm hoping we'll get to that when we have our conversation.
I mean, I have a quick and dirty hypothesis in that.
Go for it.
Well, there's an elegance to repression. I think the production code saved us, or saved Melodrama. Yeah,
you're not having to watch the endless, unlikely bodies groping kind of thing. Ecstatic. Thrown back, arches over and over. They're so generic. You don't have to do that over and over. That's true. But it's so small, it should be like, I could be like, fine, but get past it, but I can't.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly do think that has a lot to do with it, though, because you have to create through artifice what you could simply show through a sex scene. I mean, of course,
that's true. And the letter is a great example. They're using the moon, these repeated shots of the power of the moon, and her hobby gets to be this more and more maniacal tatting of lace, intricately designed lace.
Super Freudian.
She starts with a tiny piece at the beginning. By the end, she's got this full-length shawl that she wears to confront the woman that the love of her life preferred to her. And you're just like, oh my God. And so we have all the implications of Freud. It's just absolutely it's a beautiful thing, I have to say. Yeah, so you might be on something. It might be as simple as that. There's just not enough repression. And so there's all this kind of spilling that never seems to achieve a same level of it. Just is not, I can't even articulate, but a feeling of profundity, something of profundity has been revealed here. And in these, I'm always like, has anything? It often seems spurious, especially the American ones, where they've got a wrench. When we get to a perfect couple, how the grinding of gears is got to get this thing turned around. This whole ocean liner basically has got to turn around and go back in the opposite direction. You're like, how? You can't do that, but you got to do that in America.
Okay, let's start with the perfect couple.
Because that's the perfect one. It really does seem. And I should note, it's colossally popular. Like internationally, billions of people are watching or have watched Perfect Love. So it's a huge, and it has so many other
perfect couple. Perfect couple.
That it's astounding. I didn't realize. I looked it up and was like, oh my God. So everyone's watching this damn thing. And I should note that Nicole Kidman is especially present in these things. She seemed to have engineered for herself a whole other career. Playing these kinds of roles. If you've seen things like 9 Perfect Strangers, and she's the central figure, and she's producing ones that she's not starring in. So she's really all over this stuff. Yeah.
And she's great. I mean, I feel like this is the niche of the Netflix melodrama. I watched it when my partner was out of town, and I was like, what can I watch that's not taxing after work? Because I have long work days during the semester that she won't care if she misses. And it's like this. A perfect couple, right? Like stupid. And it's like, one of my students described it really well. Dash, if you're listening, Dash is like, it's the kind of TV you can do your laundry to, you know? Absolutely. And it's like, that's it. You know, and that's the Netflix brand, you know? And I was like, I like Nicole Kidman, but this doesn't look like a masterpiece. And I don't mind casually watching this and dozing off 40 minutes into it, you know? So like, here we go. This is what that is. So yeah, at no point did I get majorly invested in this one. Well, we can talk about Nicole Kidman's looks, which we have addressed before. I am so sorry, Nicole Kidman. I have issues with them.
They just get ever more extreme. She maintains a snake thin body that just doesn't even have any ripples in it, so that she can wear the most unforgivingly column-like outfits. She has no extra flesh, and her face is just smooth. I mean, the only thing rivaling her in astonishment. Did you realize it was Isabella Adjani?
Oh my God, no! It took me a second.
That's who that is.
I know.
spent the entire show watching this French woman who's got just so smooth and so stiff she can barely move her mouth, and she's just so exotic. She's just got this French accent to beat the band, and I'm like, who is that? That's who that is.
Yeah, like the stunning Isabella Adjani, right? Like, I mean. Yeah.
And she's still stunning, but in a kind of now horrifying way. And you're like, who and what are you? She's like, she looks like some creature from another planet with a French accent. But at any rate.
And that's fun. That's a pleasure of the perfect couple, right?
Yes. I guess you could say it's so exotically out there and wild, which they're giving you. They're giving you escapism. So you have to be somewhere, worthy of this. So they're on, Nantucket Island at the summer mansion, I gather, of this very wealthy family. And they're not just wealthy, they're famous because Nicole Kidman's character is a famous writer, super successful, just cranks out these, novels. And there's a couple at the center of them that people accept as a version of her marriage, and they're always giving interviews to People magazine. Liev Schreiber plays her husband. So as soon as you hear, it's the perfect family, it's the perfect couple, you see them all doing a kind of flash mob dance. That's the beginning. On the beach, and then and they're all there for the wedding of who the hell's getting married? Their son to
the down to earth character.
Yes, the down to earth woman character who doesn't really fit in. She works at the zoo. She's just not of their class. All that jazz. Nicole Kidman's character really is very much against her from the beginning. She has all sorts of reasons. She doesn't do anything special. She doesn't seem to really care about being with him or being as part of this family. So that's going to be a big part of this, that she's really against this marriage. But at any rate, what isn't going to be a big part of this as far as, horribly morbid, unhappy human feeling, everyone behaving despicably. That's what these things run on. I think this is, I forget, they're all 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
It always seems to me that they could have done it in half the time. I just,
totally.
They're really, padded. Yeah. And almost virtually, I think it's every episode, you have to have a cliffhanger. So there has to be enough shenanigans and sinister doings happening that at the end of every single episode, there can be a cliffhanger that makes you come back for the next one. And it can be all sorts of characters. So there's the parents, and you got the multi-generational thing. So then there's the whole younger generation. They don't have to be usually that big names. I guess Dakota Fanning is the younger, is by far the most famous.
She plays Nicole Kidman's daughter-in-law, married to another one of the sons.
Yeah, she's pregnant and married to another one of the sons, and she's very viperish in her commentary and her looks. She's very into being wealthy and in this family and everything else. So she's mean and nasty and kind of for nasty cracks. But at any rate, so they're all there in this hothouse atmosphere of this big wedding that's going to take place. Only someone gets murdered. And so then they're all trapped there because the investigation is going on and no one's allowed to leave. So it's just, again, rich secrets and lies everywhere that have to just come emerging out of this death of what was going to be the maid of honor.
Yeah.
And winds up drowning, being killed. There's some ambiguity at first, but of course, it's murder. And how they're going to solve this. So it has so many of the qualities. More famous people are the either central woman or the central couple, so that you can hang like publicity on them. So having a Cate Blanchett or Nicole Kidman is perfect for this.
Right.
And again, Liev Schreiber. Then often lesser known, maybe they're in TV, maybe you've never heard of them, can fill out the perhaps up and comers are filling out the young people cast. But you can just also have popping plot through all of the different hidden relationships that are all going to wind up being who's cheating on who with what, who's betrayed who in business, who's, you've got a whole long laundry list of who's done what to whom, so that everyone can be a suspect. Classic Agatha Christie kind of rich people, all of them despicable in various ways, all of them trapped somewhere in a country house. That's perfect.
Yep.
And then everyone by turns can be a suspect. So I think that's pretty generally it's at least one of the clear structures that anyone can go for who's in the genre.
And also, like, in each of the three, there's like always a younger woman. In the Cate Blanchett case, series, it's actually a younger version of her. But there's like, man, this blonde is like the same person, basically. But there's like a younger blonde who's the source of the trouble. Like either the scene of the crime or the victim of the crime around which the whole thing turns, or whatever. So in the Perfect Couple, the actress's name is Megan Fahey. You probably recognize her from The White Lotus. Really pretty, like, blonde woman, and she plays Liev Schreiber is having an affair with her. So Nicole Kidman's husband is having an affair with her, and she dies. And that's like she's the maid of honor of the good girl character. And these, oh man, it's just so generic and it's so interesting. Like, this seems, I don't know if this is a mark of the newer ones or what, but I mean, it seems like an old Bette Davis or Joan Crawford or even like Douglas Sirk film didn't have this character. Like, I almost feel like, I don't know, like our moment right now is if to make up for the, like, older woman who's the star, they're like, oh, we'll show you a naked body of a 25-year-old for like 30 minutes just because you expected that. I don't know how to square it, but I'm always like supremely bored. It's the worst in Disclaimer, which we'll discuss. But it's like, oh my God, get off the screen. Like, we're here for Nicole Kidman and Isabella Johnny looking crazy, and like, that's what I'm here for. And the murder mystery.
You got to do the youthful, sexy angle. Yeah. So there's always got to be a guy or two who do the beefcake thing. But you're right. This blonde woman seems ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And she can either seem, and I think they try to do something similar in that she can either seem bad and turn out to be better than she seems, but she's just the sight of trouble. So it's the same, there's a plot line about the younger woman in A Perfect Couple where at first the rumor mill has it she's what is she, an influencer? She's something like that.
Yeah.
That she sleeps with everybody, and she lets this be known. She hints at it herself, but her friend actually knows she's never really involved with anybody, and so that this relationship with the Liev Schreiber character is actually a big deal. That it has gone as far as it has.
Gilda never did any of those things.
Yeah, exactly. Any of those things.
Yeah. So femme fatale, classic femme fatale.
She dresses in such a haltery dress for, I think, what is it, the evening before party that someone says that's not a dress, that's a bathing suit. She's scandalizing people, and all the men are all hot for her. So but that kind of attention pull to another young character, yes, I can't think of. But keep in mind too, that whole everything's got to be absolutely ill with plot is a very new thing too.
I know.
I mean, watching again just the letter, just because I saw it last night, I was just really struck by, like, even though there's so many lurid goings on, there seems to be so much less plot.
Yes, less.
You're following out the implications of it. And you can just relax into it, all the permutations of it. We are now used to a very hectic level of plotting, and so you got to have multiple, generations, many, many characters to keep all that plotting going.
Yeah. And that's TV. That's TV versus film, right? Film director's medium, TV writer's medium.
Right.
Although why the writers can't just write less plot, I don't know. I call upon you, TV writers.
Just explore what you already have going on. And, frankly, it infects film more and more. I complain about this in film more and more. God, there's just truckloads of plot here. What the hell? You can't settle for a minute on the implications of anything that's happening. Right. But it is very hectic here, to the point that it does become ludicrous when you try to do a Gilda never did anything. We're quoting from Gilda. It was one of the last lines of Gilda where they take the plot that's been wonderfully film noir, S&M romance at the center, just a brutally dark one. And at the end, they got to be a happy couple who can go back to America. So you're just like, nah, she never did any of it. She was just ending. And he was not the nightmare that he's even. You're just like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's very like that.
Right.
Yeah. So gorgeous settings, tons of plot, the women central in the ways that we've already described. Is there anything else?
Well, we should talk about Nicole Kidman, her twist at the end.
Yeah.
So she's the show kind of frames her, or you think she might have perpetrated the murder
of
this young woman that her husband is. Oh, we're doing spoilers, guys, as always.
Yeah. As always. We're always
spoilers. So you get through most of the show, you think Nicole Kidman knows something about the murder, even if she didn't kill her. Turns out, no, she's perfectly innocent. Mm-hmm. And one way that we deal with her wealth is that it turns out she was an escort when she met her husband. Mm-hmm. So now we get to have the triumphant sex worker thing, Now
you get the go girl angle.
I guess. And her brother shows up, who's a criminal, a Cockney criminal. I guess she's British or something. Mm-hmm. He's played by, I love this actor. He was in Sons of Anarchy. He was so good. What is his name?
We got it here too.
Sorry.
Doodly doo. What was his name? Okay,
Thomas Flanagan as Broderick Graham.
Okay, it isn't even here, so I'm glad you have that.
Yeah, so Thomas Flanagan, go. He's a wonderful actor. Okay. And so you get they've got weird, lower class British origins, and she was a sex worker. Mm. And then it turns out, she's been carrying this worthless man and his kind of paltry family fortune for decades on her writing career. Mm-hmm. And so it's all she's, I don't know, Oprah and everyone else is a worthless piece of shit, including her sons. Mm-hmm. And it's all right, fine. That's fine. I think it's a handy way to deal with the discomfort around their money. Right. To make her self-made, very American, even though she's not playing an American character.
And they've also got to reverse or sort of demonstrate the cleansing power of honesty and kind of confession.
Yes.
Up to that point, she's been just a miserable bitch throughout the whole thing because she's so uptight about every detail. So that's how, of course, the early signs that you already know, but if you didn't, that there's something terribly wrong. She's so uptight about every detail of the wedding, what everyone wears, how everyone behaves. Everyone is supposed to be following some sort of insane script. It is clearly about covering up everything about what their origins really are, what their marriage really is, everything. So she's always the one driving the presentation. Mm-hmm. Whether there are interviewers there, photographers there or not, everyone's got to be presenting their perfect selves all the time. So that's bad. But as soon as she finally is driven, this is in the second to last or the last episode, she's driven to the wall, then it's fuck it all. Yeah. I'm going to tell it all. And then once she tells it all, she's free. So she's free of those horrifying qualities, and they're really terrible. And she's just her prospective daughter-in-law just gets tortured. Yes. She never looks right. She never acts right. She's never living up to the image in any way. Mm-hmm. So she's really cruel in that way. And the kids are all messed up, and there's all that all the usual stuff. But suddenly she's free of the burden of presenting. Once she becomes honest, confesses it all, then she can become her true self, which is much better than what her false self was. So
a natural woman.
Yeah, she becomes a natural woman. She can't look like one. The boat has sailed on that. Yeah.
Poor Nicole Kidman. So yeah, thank you. And it's true. The confession is in each of these. Mm-hmm. So we're set up at the end of Disclaimer with Cate Blanchett for Cate Blanchett to have the final episode where she narrates her version of the events. So that's her confession is the ultimate truth of the story. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, in the Italian one, there's also a trial. There's a trial scene, and the woman is defending herself against charges that she's incompetent, charges brought by her own children.
Oh, yes.
And so she talks about like her past trauma, basically. But it's not so much she doesn't change, but it does change her in the eyes of her family.
Right. Well, and that once all is known, it's like the woman can only come into her own in a true and strong way once she stopped trying to hide anything that's a perceived flaw or a weakness or a trauma, or once she stopped trying to present herself in a certain way and defending herself to others who are trying. Once she just says it all and damn the consequences, that's always seems like it's presented as the key.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so, this one, I vote that this one's the most annoying. It had the least going for it visually. I mean, it's fine. It's like, I don't know, it looks like every other Netflix melodrama,
it's very candy colored. Yeah. There's nothing to hang on to. Yeah.
No. It's the shallowest, I would say, in terms of like, it's a predictably American resolution. And I don't feel differently about the world. I don't know. And then I feel like, should we move on to disclaimer?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. I mean, okay. I'll only say this. It seems high risk to me. Part of the problem I have is people are so loathsome without mostly being able to indicate they are otherwise, even though once you know the formula, at least the woman is going to be able to offer a whole other perspective on what's going on. They do such a convincing job of showing you the worst possible behavior. I mean, it's so heinous. It's that very soap opera thing where you're like, come on, there's no coming back from that. Once you've said that, done that, whatever, you can't. But they always do, so you just have to be like, oh, no, now they're going to turn out to be nice. And you just have to kind of go with it. Because they're all rich and thoughtless and don't have to deal with consequences mostly. And, the people who aren't rich are the ones who are trying the hardest to be among the rich. So like that's Dakota Fanning's character, a pregnant wife of an utterly worthless son who's constantly unfaithful to her, especially with Isabella Adjani's character. Which is hilarious. Their relationship is kind of funny. Yeah. But she's so waspish and horrible because she just desperately wants to be exactly where she is, and she doesn't want it's like she wants to, somehow she feels she's shoring up her position by being just rat's ass horrible to everyone else.
Yeah.
But they do have a way too convincing job. And I guess that's just part of the pleasure. I think there's a lot of shows now about how wealthy people are horrible. It's become a thing.
Yeah.
And you can just slag them. And people are like, fine. I think it was Palm Royale with Kristen Wiig.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to see that.
It's all about someone who's so desperate to be part of this country club. She literally climbs the wall initially. And then there's no limit to what she's willing to do. And you're really being asked episode after episode to be rooting for her to get this goal. And she gets it. And you're like, okay. Now she's among a lot of horrible rich people. Allison Janney's in it. She's very funny. She always is. But I mean, they're very convincingly horrible people. And you're like, yay? I don't know. But there's a lot of this. Let's reveal how horrible all the rich people are. And we're like, yep, okay, ready, see. Fine. But how much are you going to have to be part of that to get going with any kind of sympathy is always tricky. For me anyway. I think it's less for you. You can embrace the fantasy.
I felt nothing for any of these characters, not a thing, but I was entertained enough. Like, how to say, I wasn't angry that I had wasted my time. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It was like not too taxing. And I was like, yeah, all right. I don't know. So I guess in terms of that, like nice and genre hit after a long day's work, it was good.
And in a way it's this like, because it's among the rich, it doesn't seem as dire.
Exactly.
Like, how bad is it? They're all rich.
Someone got murdered. You're like, some rich piece of shit.
Everyone will go on. Everyone will be fine. No one will be on the street. You don't even have to think about it. So I think that's part of the fantasy. But disclaimer seems to be, yes. It's Clarent. It seems like there's a real effort to be dramatically serious, even as it gets ludicrous.
It's so pretentious.
Oh, Lord.
It's really wildly pretentious.
It's so beautifully shot. it's ridiculous. It's got two just of the greatest living cinematographers, Emmanuel Lubezki and Bruno Delhamel, who are those are currently the Coen brothers to go to cinematography. They're considered among the very greatest working today. And you're like, really? You got the two of them to shoot this soap opera thing? What the hell? So it's taking the same kind of material, but just trying to do this huge elevation.
Yeah.
Which it's not like you can't do that. You can do brilliantly in that. What is Cirque if not doing that?
Exactly. Like we're not against it on principle.
Absolutely. And finding ways to really do serious work within this. You can absolutely do this. This just isn't it. And it has gotten some reviews that are saying that, like, how can this be this shallow?
I know. That's it. It's like, what are these lives? Like in Cirque, I can really feel that the life of a suburban mom and her gardener lover like means something.
They matter. Yes.
Yeah. And here I'm just like, I just don't have any feeling for these people.
Nothing.
They're, I don't know, they're paper thin,
Yeah. I mean, here's
I don't account for that.
Quickly as possible, the basic plot. There's a woman played by Cate Blanchett who's hugely admired. I forget what she is, a top journalist, writer figure.
Documentary filmmaker,
that's what she is. So she literally will go to just events where everyone is fawning all over her as the most, amazing woman alive. She gets in the mail a self-published book called, what is it called? A Perfect Love? A Perfect Shit. Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers. Okay.
A perfect stranger.
A perfect stranger. Oh, a perfect stranger. And when she reads, it's got a weird note or something, and when she reads through it, she recognizes the central character and the central story of the death of a young man that the woman has been having this very heated sexual affair with, dies in a really awful way in Italy. She recognizes, in fact, herself, what happened to her and her little son who was with her when they were on a trip to Italy. She met this young man. They had a big affair. It seems at least we're going to find out in the end if all this happened the way they say. The son was drowning. The young man went in to save the boy. The young man drowned. She came back home and tried to forget and cover up. But in the meantime, the family of the young man, their lives were destroyed by his death. So the mother winds up writing this book, actually, and the father played by Kevin Kline. The mother is played by Leslie Manville. So some great actors. Leslie Manville is playing the young man's mother.
Oh my God, the casting, luxury casting. It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And Kevin Kline being the father. And once his wife is dead, she dies of cancer and she just never gets over it. And she spends all of her last days locked up in the son's room writing this book. He arranges to have it published as the beginning of an elaborate revenge plot to get back at the Cate Blanchett character for her transgression that she never had to pay for. Okay, so that's basically the plot. That's it. So you're just following out all of his machinations, all of her defensive maneuvers and attempts to kind of keep her life on track, which it's increasingly falling apart as Sacha Baron Cohen winds up finding out her husband, Cody Smith McPhee, who you might know from his biggest role, I think, that you've seen. He did the voice of Norman in Paranorman, which matters to me. So he's been around a while. He was very young then. But he's in Year of the Dog with Benedict Cumberbatch. He's the son. Right. He's the son who is seemingly going to be the object, get tortured by this macho guy, and then things happen differently. But at any rate, he's the son in this, the Cate Blanchett's son. So that's all it is. And it's then playing out this scenario of revenge, and gradually through flashbacks, finding out what actually went on in Italy, although 10 years earlier. So that's basically the plot. And that's how we wind up with this blonde, young, much younger actor. She's playing the young Cate Blanchett. And we just wind up spending an enormous amount of time with this young woman that we don't care about, while Cate Blanchett is increasingly sidelined. And we're like, wait, we're here for Cate Blanchett.
Yes.
Catfishing. You got us here for Cate Blanchett, and now she's never here.
Exactly. Oh my God, this woman is, so I don't know if it's pronounced Layla George or Lila George, Leila George. She's the woman who ruined Animal Kingdom, which was like a somewhat decent show on network TV. Don't ask me which one, where Ellen Barkin was like the mother, the head of a gang of thieves. And she played the younger Ellen Barkin, and her screen time came to gradually replace Ellen Barkin's screen time until the show fired Ellen Barkin, and it became just about this woman. And she's like, remember this? Insane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Didn't you say, yes, she's the daughter of Vincent D'Onofrio?
She's the daughter of Vincent D'Onofrio, dated or is still dating Sean Penn, which is how she has a career. Sorry, let's be honest. Okay.
She's not good.
No, she's not good. I think she's like in her 20s. She's a terrible actor, like horrendous. And in Disclaimer, like I thought maybe, all right, we'd have to endure, like there is a utterly cringeworthy scene of her seducing there's so many cringeworthy scenes. The first is her seducing this young man. This may or may not be a hallucination of the mother who wrote the book. We don't know yet. But she's like being sort of pedophilic in the way that the scene is, set up. He's like this shy, retiring, very boyish type, and she starts. I can't even like talk about it. It's disgusting.
So can't pull it off. She does this thing where she finds, like, who do you find? She's trying to find out who he finds attractive. He says Kylie Minogue. She's like, so in your fantasy, what would Kylie Minogue be doing to you? Would Kylie Minogue be doing? And you're just like, she just can't pull it off. Maybe nobody could, but she can't. And she has to stick with this bit for like, it's like 15 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, let it stop. It's just terrible.
Begging for it to end. And then you have to endure like another, what seemed like 15-minute sex scene of her like guiding this kid and how to have sex. And it's like, it was literally nauseating. And then there's like a third scene of them like getting it on again in some like beach, bathroom. Yeah. And I could only think of the smell. I was just like,
I know. So it's just agony. But again, you got to have the regular clockwork sexual encounters. And it's like, do we have to have these sexual encounters?
I know.
It's clearly supposed to be like the hottest sex ever.
Totally.
And you're just like going, It's really bad. So
wanted it to end.
All of this time with this other actor that's rung in instead of Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett looks so phenomenal. Let's just let Cate Blanchett just have long shots.
This is what I'm saying. Okay, so and this is where the Italian one differs. Like there are all these. I feel like they're bringing in these 20-something year olds in A Perfect Couple and in. All these sound the same. Disclaimer. I feel like they keep bringing in the 25-year-olds as substitute for the older woman's star body. We can't show we can't show Nicole Kidman naked or Cate Blanchett naked anymore because they don't want to do that. So here's this chick. Like it's like
it very much has a stand-in quality that's really off-putting in many, many ways.
It's creepy. And another negative point, of course, is like, both Nicole Kidman and Cate Blanchett are so, sorry girls, like so over exercised, I honestly and I love them. I think they're so talented. And I mean this with compassion in my heart. Okay. I know their business sucks and they have to do this because they fear for their careers, but I'm like, I want you to just enjoy a meal. Yes, like I do. I feel like I can't even picture you being a passionate person.
Are not the worst thing that ever happened. You don't have to. Literally, Nicole Kidman is like, she's like, and Cate Blanchett not much further behind. They're both so lean and just so thin and so toned and cold, and you're just like, oh.
How can you enjoy an orgasm if you can't enjoy a sandwich? Yes. I just feel like it's
Your whole sensual life is actually so impaired by having to live this way and having stuff shot into your face to make it go. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
I don't see how any woman can't take it personally. It's just like, totally. And I know there's a whole contingent of people who are like, no, we have to affirm whatever. And I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. It really feels bad. It feels very bad. And especially when we're going to move to Deceitful Love and we're going to have the European version of this, which is a 60, they're all late 50s, 60s. All of these women.
I know, that's wild, right?
Sorry?
That's wild, right? How old is Kate Blanchett now? Like 58 or something?
I think, oh no, I know Nicole Kidman's 57. I think she was something like between, late 50s, early 60s. And so the woman in, what's her name?
Monica Guerritore. She is 66, and naked.
Supposed to be 60.
She's supposed to be 60.
But, she looks 60. She looks 66. She looks her age, but she looks great.
She's totally untouched. She's a beautiful woman. She's like, a beautiful actress, right? But
there's no work as far as you can see, like none.
No work. She's got wrinkles. She's got bags under her eyes. She has beautiful clothes and dramatic looks. But she's got
a nice version of the body of a woman who's 60.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
mind blowing. Yeah.
This is a thing that could happen that we could embrace here, where you could be 60, but wearing clothes that flatter you. Good luck finding them. It's quite a challenge.
Sure.
But they would be available, and you would know, I could age and still be like looking pretty fab like she does.
Yeah.
So it's really, really bad. Yeah. So there's
there are other models, fam.
So should we go on and contrast?
Yeah.
Or is there more about disclaimer? I'm trying to think.
I mean, I'm interested to see how it turns out. My biggest point of interest is are we going to be taught a moral lesson here?
Oh, I think.
Okay. Yeah. That's my fear.
I think that we're going to get a high tone version of what we just described with a perfect couple. Instead of her having been a sex worker and all this other, more lurid stuff, it's going to be, now I will set the record straight. And I'm a desiring woman, but not the way it's been painted in this book. And we're going to be like, and our hearts are going to go out to her. And we're going to be like, oh, there were tragedies all around, and forgive and forget, and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to find out why. It's already obvious that the Kevin Kline guy is a sicko as he ups the ante more and more into his revenge. To the point that he's ready to kill the boy, and he plans to destroy everyone utterly. And he literally is going to try and kill the boy. And you're just like, oh my gosh, okay. It's just getting more and more purple and crazy. So it's all shifting ground. So the Kevin Kline character can be ultimately evil. And, we've already had a portrait of his marriage with Leslie Manville that makes it clear she had no use for him. Mm-hmm. So even though he's supposedly doing this all for her, he makes it sound like all for her. So that was when early on, it was a way of representing him as sympathetic. Then more and more, it's like, no. So he's going to be the bad guy. She's going to be at least partially strongly redeemed. And it's going to I hope it won't have a full out you go girl thing. But
in both The Perfect Couple and Disclaimer, there are true villains. Mm-hmm. We don't, I don't know, we're spoiling everything else, but maybe we don't have to say who the murderer is in The Perfect Couple, but she's a villain.
She's a villain. Yeah. Yeah.
And the state, Kevin Kline, undeniably a villain. Maybe it'll turn out that Sacha Baron Cohen bears some responsibility. I'm imagining.
He's certainly looking worse and worse too, as he completely accepts Kevin Kline's version of everything and is more and more vengeful and punitive regarding his wife. Oh no, it seems like it's all slip sliding that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what fascinates me about the Italian one, so I keep referring to it in the Italian title is Inganno, which means deceit. And I keep in my mind, that's how I talk about it, because deceitful love sounds like Disclaimer and The Perfect Couple, just like the words, they all sound the same. So this one, I'm so fascinated by it because there actually isn't a clear villain by the end. Mm-hmm. And there is no message of purity. It blows my mind. So, let's say Eileen abandoned ship halfway through.
I did. I couldn't do it. I was so embarrassed. And let me quickly say why I was embarrassed, and then you can correct me.
Please.
Because it's about, again, much older woman, young man half her age. They meet. She doesn't want to get. They're clearly very attracted. She doesn't want to get involved. So it's very all that heaven allows. And he's also much lower class. She's wealthy, hotel owner, manages the whole hotel. He seems to have nothing, and in fact to be deeply in debt and have had to leave one of the countries he's lived in because of it. And so he seems to have nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay, they get together. The children are appalled. The ex-husbands, everyone is appalled. Friends, everyone is appalled.
No, the women have some solidarity with her. Even her ex-friend who, like her daughters have some solidarity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's more sympathy. But when the chips are down, it's also like, is mom going to wind up being taken advantage of by this guy? And, there's more and more evidence that can be found and is found by them, especially the son. The son is the big meddler here. And he keeps dredging up stuff about the guy. And every time it gets dredged up, the 6-year-old woman goes, oh my God, I can't believe I ever trusted you. And she pitches out the young man. Then it's either proved to be a more complicated scenario, not so bad, or whatever happens, she winds up getting back with him. So this happens like 8 times in the first 3 episodes, to the point that I'm like, I can't. If it's going to be 3 more or whatever, I just cannot do this over and over. So I just gave up in mortification. But I shouldn't have, because it sounds like it starts to get more interesting after those first 3.
It does. Like I'll say it is very repetitive. And a lot of people, I've been reading the American comments about the show, and people are pissed. And they're pissed at the ending because it's confusing from an American perspective. Nobody's the good guy. And nobody learns a lesson. So we're just like, what? not teaching morality tale. I don't know how to compute, It's what I think is really exciting about it. Like all of the shows, it's all about women not being believed, but she actually, in my view, is not a dupe the whole time. She's like, yeah, I think this guy probably is a grifter, one of her first, she saves him. His car breaks down in the rain. She asks him in during a rainstorm while he's waiting for the police. He is suspiciously looking at her father's very expensive collection of watches, and she confronts him. She's like, what are you doing? And then he almost kisses her that first night, and she's like, whoa, so she's suspicious of him from the start, but gives in to her desire to sleep with him anyway. And as far as I can tell, she's never totally delusional that he is a grifter. Right. She thinks that he also does love her. And he might, which is the great thing about this film. It does remind me a lot of The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone with, wait for the connection, Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee reference. Vivian Lee's the queen of this genre, first of all. But Vivian Lee and a young Warren Beatty in the worst casting in maybe the history of cinema. He plays a young Italian gigolo in Rome. And this film does an homage to one of the famous, there are repeated scenes of young men down, waiting for Mrs. Stone in the piazza. And this does that a couple times. Yeah. But the thing about Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone, which is interesting because Tennessee Williams also is never reductive, is that Warren Beatty is trying to, hustle Mrs. Stone. And he also kind of falls for her. And that's kind of what this show is about too. He's got a shady girlfriend that he knocked up, and he says he didn't know he impregnated this girl. She shows up. And the whole time, our protagonist basically knows what she's getting into. He's always asking her for money, and then he'll do something that makes her feel insecure. And it's kind of she knows better, but she gives him money anyways, And so you never feel I never felt like she was stupid. I just felt like she was yeah, I know, but I'm going to do it anyway. I like having him around, he's handsome.
Well, and at a certain point, I think maybe it's the daughter, somebody says something well, who cares? We've got
it is the daughter.
Why does it have to be that you need somebody else who has lots of money? And I always think that too. For Christ's sake, you have enough money for everybody. Totally. The heiress is always maddening to watch because you're just let her marry the dude who wants the money. Maybe he'll make her a little bit Abby, for heaven's sake. Why do you need another guy with money? So anyway, that's very effective.
That's it. So, and, she, so for her, the through line is, or the consistency with Melodrama over the years is she's got a line about, are you going to be, she wants to give something to this young man and he doesn't want to accept it. He thinks it'll look bad or whatever. And she's like, are you going to be another man who tells me what to do with my money? First it was my father, then it was my husband. Are you the next in the long line? So she's very aware. And at the end, so the main nemesis of this affair is her son, he is genuinely feeling protective of his mother. Yes, the family fortune and wants to protect his mom. And the son is a DL gay guy. He's married with a wife and a child, but he's in love with this police officer who sometimes does dirty work for him because they're having an affair.
Mm.
And so, okay, the last episode is this confessional, like trial. It's like a closed court trial. It's like a small, I don't know what you call that, like a
Is it
with
hearing?
just a hearing. Yeah, it's just like a hearing. And so it's like the family and the kids and the ex-husband who want to deem her incompetent for being with her lover. And she covers for the lover. Like on this same day, she basically finds out he knocked up some young woman. This young woman has been like weird and hanging out around the hotel. There's like a weird threesome scene in the pool that never really happens. It's strange. and I'm like, I'm not mad about it. It's fine. But anyway, so in court, you find out, this is the part that felt like ham-fisted, that in the past, our main character has gone through periods of like deep depression. And you find out it's because when she was a teenager, she had a child who was taken away at a young age. And on the anniversary of this child's birth, she would sometimes go into like a deep depression. So that explains everything. And her son like cries and basically forgives her and doesn't like press the matter further. And up until this hearing, she was going to marry the young guy, the possible grifter. And so she has the hearing, and it's not like she changes deeply, but she's basically like to the guy, she's like, we need some space. You'll be hearing from me. And at the end, she decides, she's like, we're not going to get married. She's like, I'm free. You're free. We can have some fun together. You can stay if you feel like staying, but I don't want to like tether you to me or vice versa. I've been married. I don't want to do that again. And this is my favorite part. I feel like this is a cultural difference. She's like, I'll pay for your child and I'll make sure that it's like raised with everything it needs, but I never want to see it or that woman you knocked up ever again. And he's like, okay. So and then whatever, the final scene is like her on her fabulous hotel balcony on the Amalfi Coast, you know, like having some birthday celebration with her like hunky lover, and her son who had like you know, like tried to get her basically like deemed mentally incompetent shows up. He has not come out of the closet. He has gone back into it. The cop boyfriend is like, you know, you're never going to leave your wife, so I'm not going to have this affair with you. So I love it. Like at the end, the son goes back into the closet, like with his family, wishes his mom a happy birthday with her like extremely like morally compromised lover, and that's it. That's the happy ending. I was like, what is this? But it's kind of great. You know, and like we're not supposed to lament the son going back into the closet. It's just like, nah, I guess, you know, probably he was his family.
Don't know to run that way. No. But I mean, the only thing in common is, in the end, what can kind of get celebrated is it's the woman who orders the kind of the universe at the end.
That's
the woman. So it's like with even with the perfect couple, it's not just that Nicole Kidman tells all, leaves the husband. She seeks out the prospective daughter-in-law and wants her to read the new book and says the book is about you. So she's writing differently. So we should get together and talk and have dinner. I really hope you call me or whatever. Suddenly maybe they're going to be friends. They're going to, you know. So but now it's Nicole Kidman is going to run the show her way. And that's like, so it sounds like that's the move. And this is just a more sophisticated version of the move. We don't know if Disclaimer is going to do the same.
We don't.
You know, I saw one also running on Apple called Apples Never Fall by this woman named Leanne Moriarty. She seems like she's all over this genre. She did, what is it called? Dirty Pretty Lies, one of those Pretty Lies things, plus 9 Perfect Strangers. She's producing something that's coming up with Nicole Kidman. Sounds like they're kind of producing partners now. But anyway, Apples Never Fall starts, this time it's Annette Bening. Sam Neill is the husband. They're former tennis pros who then opened a school, became very influential, became wealthy. Again, it has this perfect couple, perfect family thing that then it's going to implode. She's going to disappear. So I'm beginning to wonder, suddenly makes me think, wait a minute, but Annette Bening goes away for a long time too. And you're like, but wait, Annette Bening's the most famous person in this damn thing.
Yeah.
And then
What's
it's
that
all
about?
the kids and the father racing around trying to figure out, they become convinced she's been murdered and the father must have murdered her. That's Sam Neill. And all of this stuff. But in the end, well, spoiler, huge spoiler. That one's kind of old. So if you haven't seen it, she comes back. Turns out, I forget what happened. There's an accident, something happens, but she realizes everyone thinks she's missing, maybe and believed dead, but she just leaves it that way because everyone's been taking her for granted too long.
Oh no!
I'm not even kidding.
That's the plot of
that she stays away for, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something. And you're like, no, you could never come back from that. But everyone's contrite, and she comes back and she reorders the reality now because everyone appreciates her, and I'm just like. Okie dokie. I think we like that the woman comes back and just dictate how it's going to go from now on. Yeah.
It's great. It's a pleasure, you know?
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Italian one the most because it had the least pretension. It was like the least like psychological, you know?
Absolutely. And it's all out front about like what the main pleasures are. Not only the lurid plot, the hunky guy, the sex, the blah, 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 but it's like picture postcards come to life. Just like constantly.
Drone shots
like
of the Amalfi
Coast. Of just like incredibly beautiful. And again, the fashion, as you've already pointed out, we're going to look at incredibly suave Italian fashion all over the place, and the buildings that are fabulous. And you're just like, and it's nakedly that. It's not pretending to be anything other than that. Yes, that's very true.
So that was like soothing. I wasn't disappointed by any of these, like in a way. I mean, how to say, like, I guess I'm not coming to it for like sophistication. And like, I think the pleasure of the genre here was discovering, out of 3, Deceitful Love was kind of interesting because of the twist at the end. Because I could identify like, oh, that's not allowable in American genre, this level of compromise, And as ever, the pleasure of genre is that little twist, just to see like, oh, I don't know if this has been done, and it's like, I'm not coming to it for like, I don't know. It's not like spiritual. It's not going to change my view of the world. I'm just like, right. I want to see pretty people in pretty environments be dramatic,
And yes, to the point that disclaimer seems irritating because it's like presenting itself, the whole look of it, the whole tone of it as deep. And then you're like, then there's nothing. There's nothing.
Stop with the fox and the cats. I know there's going to be something with that animal imagery that like matters.
Yes.
Like stop it with the symbolism. This is
yes. And so it leaves open the question why I can't, because normally again with genre, that's exactly what I can do. I can give myself completely over to this is what it's doing for you.
Yeah.
This is the service it is rendering. I can write for pages I have about John Wick and why it is balm for the contemporary, working class soul, which it is. And it's not because it's got profound artistry going on. It's because it's doing, and I can list them and go, it's doing this. So it's my own strange, like, why can't I accept this? I don't know. I think it's because I am a woman and a tendency to be embarrassed for my kind is part of this. And I feel distressed at that. Whereas I wouldn't be distressed at, what's completely designed to be mail order fantasizing, and then I'm like, oh, all right, I recognize this, but it doesn't implicate me. So I can sit here going, well, what's great about John Wick? Let me tell you. But now I'm like, this is kind of suggesting, yes, that I'm craving the you go girl in the end, and you get to reorder everyone's idea of how things will work. And, you get to have the hot sex with the guy who's always taking his shirt off. And it's just like, oh God. Yeah, I think that.
I get that. I think I do. I think I can enjoy Deceitful Love because I have a generational difference from the protagonist. I think maybe if I didn't, I'd be like, oh, I don't know.
That's right. You're right. It's pivoting over all around women of my age. This is all my age. And that is odd. That is odd. When it took a while for me to finally just go, oh, yeah, this is all built around women in their late 50s, 60s. What the hell? What's going on here? And it's not just because the star system kind of went wacko.
Yeah.
And so, you have established older stars, but it's kind of a scrum among young. It's not like there aren't any. Of course there are, but even the ones I think of as young stars aren't that young. I'm thinking like Emma Stone. What is she? 30, 35? She's not that young. I'm trying to think who's a young star that I even know. Who's a young star?
I'm just reaching for the White Lotus. I'm like Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, okay.
Or like Euphoria, the cast of Euphoria. They're young.
Yeah, no, that's true. I guess that's right. And but for some reason, there's a bankability about these older women stars that they figured out how to deploy. Instead of hagsploitation, it's these kind of, these melodramas. Yeah. So I'm the target audience, presumably. I guess. I don't know.
That's cringe. That's
maybe
fair.
That is cringe. Maybe that is. Yeah.
It's interesting because I watched Deceitful Love with my partner who's also in her 60s, and she didn't like it. And I wondered, I'm like, huh. That's one for the therapist, girls. Yeah,
it's be better for younger women. Yes, for younger women who don't even feel the pinch. This is all about you and your cramped desires that aren't getting fulfilled, and we'll put that at the center of the whole damn plot. Oh my god, that's it. I think we solved it. Yeah, too close to the bone. I like it.
Doing the real work, and they didn't farm the body work out to the 25-year-old. So
that did help. I have to say that did help. I will acknowledge that. No, that was a huge relief. She looks great, and she's not straight. She honestly, it wasn't even having to be put on. This is what you realize. She doesn't even seem like she's straining for the effect. It's just like, no, this is me, and I know how to dress myself, and I know even in a scene where she's doing what she calls it retail therapy, and she goes and gets herself a wonderful black dress. So, and she's literally doing the hair gesture, and she's doing this with she's putting her sunglasses on just so that they'll look perfect. And I'm like, but she knows how to put on the sunglasses. Yeah, so they'll be just perfect. And this is a whole cultural legacy that I do not have, but that is still available to the European. Which, that isn't it.
We don't have that. Yeah.
Anywho,
we'll study the color wheel. That's the best that we can do.
I know. Tertiary
colors. Who knew?
And I think that's it for
what you call full circle.
Full circle. We are calling streaming melodramas Love and Deceit. Thank you, dear listeners, and triple thanks to our subscribers who keep us in beach reading, which is most of this is. It's almost all based on somebody's, blah blah blah. Totally. If you're not a subscriber but you like what you hear, please consider signing up with Patreon for all the Filmsuck content instead of just the half that's publicly available. You can follow news of the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, if you're watching this, you're seeing this. We're now doing half of our episodes and half of our essays, so that's twice a month. We're doing visual versions because I don't know, you kids seem to like that sort of. So anyway, they'll be available.
Cheap, shallow bastards.
It's so much easier not to have to put on makeup and have backdrop and the whole thing. Weird.
Yeah,
weird how much work it is. I don't know. Yeah. But at any rate, we're doing it. So that's something to look for. And it's on YouTube. And I think increasingly I'll just also put it on the site, which I hadn't been doing for our episodes, but I don't know why not. Yes, I'll just do both from now on. I think that will work great. So join us in 2 weeks for more fantastic Filmsuck content. Until then, we can't thank you enough for joining us. Bye.
Grazie. Ciao.
Ciao.